We start with first alert breaking news you only see on WAFF 48. Huntsville police are investigating a shooting in a neighborhood off University Drive. Family, friends, and neighbors are mourning the loss of one Huntsville man after he was killed in a fire Saturday morning. There's about 100 protesters, and I'm going to take you through this entire group here. A lot of homemade signs, if you can see, and then also look at it's crushed this car completely. But good news, if you look ahead, that is a good sign. Two more recently passed laws in Alabama are ruled unconstitutional. One of the laws would have restricted abortion clinics near schools. This community is very strong. They've leaned on each other for the past year. Although it is very bitter cold out here at Memorial Park, the community expects a large turnout for Kelsey. Good Sunday morning. Thanks for waking up with us. We're talking flurries for the potential for Tuesday, right?
Yes.
School is a time for learning and preparing for the future, but some students may not always have the basic necessities to succeed. Check out how powerful this storm was. This massive tree was uprooted and smashed into a shelter here at the park. People here tell me that they plan to keep putting up a memorial for Bailey no matter how many times the police try to take it down. They also tell me that they're going to have a vigil for Bailey before the parade of lights tomorrow. The O'Neill Church of Christ tells us they have more to pray over. WAFF 48's Chris Joseph sat in on a service tonight and met with church leaders. Chris, how is the congregation handling this? A fight between two men in Madison ends with a man allegedly shooting his roommate. He's in the hospital. We're working to learn his condition. The other man is in custody right now. You can see detailed murals and graffiti, but it was this one that caught everyone's attention, and the artist tells me he is fed up. The homeowner I spoke with says he has several of these surveillance video cameras around his home, and police say just the sight of them could scare off potential thieves.
First thing he told me was that not to believe what the town was saying about him, which at that point I hadn't put two and two together. I had no idea who he was.
This phone store employee came face to face with Patrick Frazee just days after the murder of Kelsey Barrett on Thanksgiving Day of 2018.
There's a million red flags going off. He was looking all over the room, was zeroing in, kind of like on where the cameras were. His tone of voice was kind of almost hushed, almost wavering as well, kind of, trembling. I mean, throughout the conversations we had, all of those emotions became more and more elevated.
He worked at a Verizon store and says Frazee asked him strange questions about Barrett's phone.
He asked if the other phone on his account, if it was destroyed, if anyone would be able to get information off of it. And it wasn't done in kind of a normal circumstance. We get people all the time that, I ran my phone over with the backhoe or whatever and would like to get my pictures off of it. It wasn't a typical question. He also kind of hesitated halfway through the question, almost when you're asking a question that you shouldn't ask, kind of paused and asked me if the other phone on the account was destroyed, would anyone be able to get information off of the phone?
With Barrett's baby in hand, this witness added Frazee also asked him if they could reset the security pin code. But when Frazee was told they couldn't, he wasn't happy.
That's when he kind of just lost it and just became very nervous, very anxious, very apprehensive. Was speaking louder, not yelling or anything, but just was becoming very heightened in his emotional state as he was realizing that he was not going to be able to kind of lock down the account like he wanted to.
This witness also told me that Frazee had came into his store days before this visit asking another employee for a new cell phone because the one he had, the FBI took it. When one employee was getting the new phone for Frazee, another employee overheard Frazee saying some alarming words.
And apparently he was rocking back and forth and was loudly whispering to himself, "I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it," just like over and over and over and over again.
When this witness heard the news about Frazee asking another inmate in the Teller County Jail to kill witnesses before the trial, he took steps to protect his family and himself. This is why he also didn't want to show his face.
It's pretty unsettling to hear that he was trying to put hits out on the witnesses, but for the most part I feel like I've taken as many steps as I can to kind of protect myself and my family. I'd much rather be overcautious than underprepared.
This man helped investigators zero in on Frazee and is relieved the jurors made the right call finding Frazee guilty on all charges, sending him to spend the rest of his life behind bars.
at the end of the day, I knew what I was doing was the right thing to do, and I wanted to make sure that I brought justice as much as I could to Miss Barrett and her family.
He hopes that if others were in his position, they would do the same thing.
I've never been one to keep my mouth shut about anything. If I think something's wrong, if I see something that I believe is wrong, I'm definitely going to speak out about it. I mean, in these days, a lot of people feel like there's not much we can do to create any kind of social impact. Luckily, we live in a country, though, that you have free speech, and that's the one thing you can always do is speak out if you think something's wrong.
For Fox 21 News Digital Now, I'm Lauren Scharf reporting. Hundreds of kids walk these hallways multiple times a day, but two unlikely students cross paths. Austin Hines, a kindergartner, and Legend Washington, a fourth grader. Did you see the similarities? Look again.
He just kept smiling. I said, does it feel good to see somebody that looks like you? And he said, yeah, it does.
Austin smiled ear to ear when Legend introduced himself and gave him a hug. The assistant principal witnessed their first interaction.
It was really beautiful, but I think it's probably the first time he's ever experienced awe. But he just stopped and he looked at Legend and took a breath. And he looked at me and he said, he's got hearing aids just like I do. And I said, that's right, he does. What do you think about that? And he couldn't even form words. Just his breath was taken away.
Now they are best friends.
It's kind of good to somebody have hearing aids with me, and we both can be friends. We can be friends because we both have hearing aids.
They can help each other navigate how to explain to other students why they have hearing aids and how they work.
But his thing right here is blue, mine, we both got the same thing like this, it's red.
A simple connection that means everything.
I like to play with him every day.
Yeah, you want to play with him every day? Why is that?
Because you have hearing aids just like me.
Legend also teaching Austin a thing or two along the way.
One hand. Good job.
And making sure he keeps on smiling.
You okay?
A newfound friendship to share for many years to come.
Hi.
Tornado hit our neighbor. It's just real frightening.
Two Tuscumbia family members trapped under rubble until the oldest son, J.C. Brooks, came to do whatever it took to save his 91-year-old mother.
It's the inner strength. Oh, I wouldn't have quit. So, that's my job. I'll lift things.
He picked up and held the center part of the roof until rescue crews came.
It was a big beam. He squatted down, got on his shoulder, enough to get his mother out.
Like I said, I done what I had to do.
Neighbors and friends speak highly of the Brooks family who grew up here.
Good old people. I mean, just good. You won't find no better people.
Another remarkable find, the family tells me, is this Bible left open on the dresser. The house around collapsed, but the Bible was untouched by the storm. And believe it or not, this isn't the first tornado this family endured and survived.
When my mother was small, this was her father, and he got swept away with a tornado.